This is Supervisor John Plasse, again finishing up the board report and expounding a little bit on topics of the day. Board report, as you heard last segment, was relatively completed at the conclusion of our public hearing regarding the Regional Transportation Mitigation Fee Program. The board requested that the MOU be constructed in such a way that the Regional Transportation Fee Oversight Committee, which makes most of the, if not all, of the funding decisions on which projects to allocate transportation impact fee monies to, which transportation projects, that committee consists of at least 2 Board of Supervisors on that committee. Right now it consisted of 5 city representatives, 1 from each of the cities, 1 representative from ACTC, and 1 Board of Supervisor. We felt that given the track record of having generated the lion's share of the fees there, that we needed to retain some level of independent discretion as to where the fees that are collected in Amador County, the unincorporated of Amador County, where those fees or monies are spent with regards to transportation projects. We fully recognize that development in the unincorporated area often impacts some of the incorporated cities, but we don't concur that all development in the unincorporated area affects all of the incorporated cities. So we'd like to retain some of the discretion to see to it that the monies go to where the impact is felt the most severe. Given our limited transportation funding in this political environment that we're in at the state level, it's only prudent to be as discretionary as you can when spending very limited and finite resources. So that was the conclusion of our meeting. A few other items of note that has been before the board of late are things like the State of Jefferson application. As you hopefully know, the board voted to put an advisory vote from the people, the residents of Amador County, voting block of Amador County, on the ballot so that folks can weigh in as to their preference for either the creation of a new state split off from California, as the both California and federal constitution allows, or through a return to the representative levels that California enjoyed before a 1964 Supreme Court decision that moved California's state-level representation from the federal model, which, as most folks understand, the House of Representatives at Washington, D.C. is comprised of representatives from each of the states based on those states' populations and the districting created within those states, but the Senate is comprised of only 2 senators from each state, irregardless of the population of that state. California has about 38 million people now. I don't know how many people Vermont has, but suffice it to say, California only having 2 senators at the federal level and Vermont having 2 senators at the federal level, for instance, is the federal model of representation, and it creates that balance between the 2 houses of Congress that any legislation needs to pass, that one is based on populations of those states, but one is also based on the basic equal sovereignty of a state regardless of its size. California had that model of representation prior to 1964. We had a state senator for just about every county in California. There's 58 counties in California, and just about each county was represented with a state senator. In some cases of very small counties, 1 senator represented 2 counties. But it was still very geographic representation, and then of course the assembly was predicated on population levels. In 1964, a Supreme Court decision changed all that and made the Senate side of the House legislative branch in the state of California also based on population levels. And now we find ourselves in a situation where 11 Northern California counties share one state senator. That happens to be Senator Tom Berryhill, but he is one member of the Senate, one voice in that legislative body, trying to represent 11 counties. Conversely, LA County, one county in Southern California, has 11 state senators representing that one county. So you can see how very quickly we've gone from a more geographically equal representation throughout the state to one that is dominated, as we all know, by the population clusters in Los Angeles, San Diego, the Silicon Valley area, and San Francisco. So that's part of what the State of Jefferson movement is about, is equal representation, and if we can't get it through the creation of a new state that is much more manageable in size, then we hope to get it through an overturning of that legislation that moved California away from the federal model of representation to, in 1964, became the state model that was forced to be adopted through a Supreme Court decision by, I believe, 38 states. All changed with that Supreme Court decision. So that is the argument. Some folks argue against the State of Jefferson from a financial viability model. Would the Jefferson, some argue against it because they don't like the name. I personally don't particularly care for the Jefferson name either, but that's certainly not carved in granite, and that we can adopt a name suitable to a consensual liking at that time. But the financial viability argument is interesting because it causes me to ask the question, if we make this decision predicated on somebody's analysis, and obviously everybody's analysis can be different, have to have certain presumptive statements in there, but we base it on somebody's analysis of the financial viability of a new state, please answer for me which of the other 50 states were formed on the basis of a financial viability model that was put before the voters and determined whether it was financially viable. One of the things they talk about is school funding and so forth, and how richer counties send money to poorer counties and so forth. But just a review of the numbers here in Amador County. Amador County's total property assessment tax rolls is $4,369,000,000 in approximate valuation of all the fee interest held property in Amador County. Of that, your property taxes are typically about 1%, a little bit more than that because of some school bond and district measures. So in the end, the property tax collected off of the property valuations in Amador County is about $46 million, $45 to $46 million in total property taxes collected. 62% of those property taxes collected goes straight to our school and education district here. That amounts to about $28 million to our local school system. And when you go on Google and research what the Amador County Unified School District budget is, it brings up a budget of $9 million. Now, I've been informed that that is only a portion of the budget, and with other monies and so forth, it's significantly higher than that. But I guess the question is, do you, the voter, feel that just on that one issue of financial viability school funding, that $28 million might be sufficient to fund the education of our children here in Amador County? It's a question that needs to be asked, I think, along with the desire for greater representation at the state level, whether that be a new state or our existing one. So please keep those things in mind, and above all, make sure this campaign season that you properly vet all the candidates coming before you and vet the issues, and by all means, get out and vote. Thank you, Amador County.
You're watching Amador County's local television.